All right, lock and load, you guys.
Let's do it.
You got notes?
Oh, come on.
Oh, my God,
I'm talking to the greatest living director. I gotta
No,
come
but you see, you're
prepared.
supposed to be talking.
Yeah, well, I also have some anecdotes about the weather. In case.
Excellent.
All right.
Hey, come on, everybody, move on out. I just feel, whenever I'm on a set, I'm start yelling. I'm not directing this.
You could direct it. Let's get a crane. Let's get a push it down.
Boom. First time I saw him was in a Lucasfilm, Call Me By Your Name.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm a great admirer of Luca, and I love the picture. I always talk about performances, but they aren't really, they're like behavioral, where you don't see the acting. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so I connected there, and I saw Dune, which I enjoyed, and I started to see a sense of range, And then they said, Chanel asked me to do this spot for Bleu.
Which you had already done.
I had done years ago,
right.
Yeah, the first one. They said they had this young gentleman named Timoti Shalamet, and I said, that one I know. And we had some kind of a dinner and talk, etc. We had a plan for I guess you call it a commercial. I don't know what it is. Story.
It's like a little narrative. I feel that it's not evocative of other commercials and perfume commercials in a good way.
In a good way,
yeah.
I think. It's somewhat different than that. And so it's a story in a way. But how to break it through. My latest film was over 3 hours. This, 60 seconds. And it's, Marty, it's only 60 seconds. The thing about 60 seconds is it's harder.
Condensed,
and every frame counts. Every frame. I know we're talking digital, but there's still frames in digital. But I mean, 1 frame more, 2 frames. That's the way we're editing this thing. Add 2 frames, take away a frame. Juxtaposition of images, all this sort of thing. So it's not a facile way of working. It's actually, I find these much more intense.
Yeah.
And they're real workouts.
More challenging in some
way.
way.
More challenging.
Yeah.
The narrative itself was about the film actor and being on the road, and one of the things we referred to was the great short film by Federico Fellini.
Toby Dammit.
Toby Dammit, yeah, and
right.
I showed it to you, and I said, let's capture some of that feeling,
That's one of my favorite interactions with you. Is you said you've seen Toby Dammit, right? And I thought,
no.
this obscure Fellini short. No, I haven't. But I quickly got onto it.
With that as an inspiration, we came up with a story somehow. It developed into a kind of story. And
right.
how that happened, I'm not quite sure.
No, but I'm so grateful that it developed. But I felt so honored that you brought, because this didn't feel like a commercial. And I guess the fear as an actor, that's why I was so excited that you agreed to do it too, is that, you don't have to feel, whatever, like a product.
I know.
This was a total dream, total short film. What I walked away with the most, we haven't even gotten a chance to speak about it, but I was just so shocked about how unprecious you were about setups and how quickly we would fly. Not to say there wasn't enormous attention to detail. It was just so fascinating when filmmakers start out, and I work with a lot of young filmmakers that are enormously precious and maybe plotting sometimes. And here we were just like going,
Well, it was planned beforehand.
Yeah, to fly like that?
Well, not to fly like that, but I was glad it flew.
Yeah.
But no, the shots were designed. Or at least, I like to call it like a philosophy of a shot. Should this be a moving shot at all?
Right.
Or should it be static? And if it's static, what the hell size are you in the frame?
Right.
Is it from the waist up?
So that was all basically planned.
Yeah, I mean, then when you get into looking out the window and you see the
billboard.
The billboard, I know you're going to walk towards camera, but where do you stop?
I didn't know there was a shot list, basically.
I have it myself.
Do you always work like that, basically, or no?
Well, back
on features.
Yes, back in when I started doing my first films, I would draw everything.
Wow, that sounds time intensive.
Yeah, well, it was by myself anyway. I was always by myself.
So
nobody wanted to be with me.
That's another story.
That's another. So I was always in a room by myself.
The taxi driver was literally there.
Literally across the street. I designed the whole picture and drew all the pictures right across the street at the St. Regis Hotel and out that window. I spent a lot of time doing that because, first of all, I liked the idea of how to tell a story with pictures, right? But it also, because it was so low budget, I had to really
have a plan
so that it could be changed.
Had you had an experience where you didn't have a plan? that informed that?
Yes, later on I tried
Okay.
another film, but I seem to work better with a plan. I really do.
It's like showing up memorized or showing up unmemorized.
Yes,
You
exactly.
probably don't deal with a lot of people that are unmemorized.
No, it's true, but even memorize is one thing. Knowing it's another, right?
Yeah.
As long as you know it.
Exactly.
As long as you know it.
Well
You
said.
know, you could start fooling around with stuff.
Yeah.
But I tried a different experiment once, and it didn't work for me. But over the years, the drawings became notes and little drawings in the margins of the script, or let's say in Goodfellas, it actually was put into the script.
How so, like shot lists?
Pretty
or
much.
that the actors would go off of in some way, or no? Is it
No,
relevant?
no. As long as I had actors who could, if I had a specific shot I wanted to get, which was complicated, as long as he or she would be able to behave unencumbered in the frame. You know, if I'm asking them to look backwards and walk forwards at the same time, and I found that to be a problem. And then I may have adjusted the shot. You follow?
Right.
Depend on what's more important, their faces and what they're doing, or this particular move to the left or right.
But it's amazing in After Hours and Goodfellas, there's shots sometimes that push in rapidly on someone, and they're doing something very natural behaviorally. Obviously, De Niro's one of the greatest ever, but a camera's flying at him, and he's like
Yes,
picking
yeah.
his teeth or
Yes,
something, he's
exactly.
not
Yeah,
disturbed.
yeah,
And that's why I was so seriously inspired working with you, is that it was so unprecious, and the commercial is quick. It's really gripping. Everyone I've showed it to, the 4 or 5 people, whatever, they go, "Oh my God, this is like this is fast,"
the thing is, the situation was perfect for that.
Yeah.
You know, if it was something else,
Yeah.
like if you see Killers of the Flower Moon,
Yeah.
as you saw, I mean, in certain cases, you just hold the camera, don't move
Right.
it. You know?
Now, I was shocked with Killers too, though. It's very engaging. I'm shocked only because of the runtime, but you're gripped the entire time. And
that was our big gamble.
it's amazing, pacing-wise, all those characters feel out of that era. Leo, most of
I know.
all, you know?
Well, I tell you, well, you know what it's like. You're in a place like that, you learn to live in it,
Yeah,
and you become part of it.
yeah.
And I mean, yeah, it was a long shoot, but a lot of my pictures lately have been long.
Right.
That's why I wanted to do this. I wanted to change the style right away. I had to freshen up.
Right.
I had to change it. Doesn't mean go faster. I had to think differently.
Right.
You know, to force myself to think differently.
No, I loved it. It was lean, it was muscular, and it was like way more run and gun than I ever would have
Yeah.
thought.
I wanted to be free and open.
Yeah.
It was constructed, as I say, and
Yes.
designed.
Right.
But
Yeah, but there's room to play.
yeah,
That's what I loved. From my perspective, sometimes direction can be really explicit, and then when something's really explicit, it's quite hard to get to.
I can't imagine how you do it.
Yeah, because you kind of lose your mind, you know. But and I felt you nudging, which is really the best, because
Yeah.
if you're getting sort of gently, and then if you don't get there, I felt that too. If I was like, if it's not gonna work, fuck it, we're gonna go do something else.
Do
you
something
know?
else.
Yeah.
Well, but you see, the nature of this spot lent itself to that because of the spontaneity of the show, let's say, or the backstage chaos.
Mm-hmm.
You know, look, being specific and blocking specifically, it's another way of artistic expression.
Right.
You know, and there are times when I have to do it.
Right.
You know, but this particular story didn't need that.
Yes.
You know, I think we hit the pacing right. Getting in the van was hard when we hit you with the camera.
But that was used. That's what
Yeah.
I was laughing the first time I saw this podcast. I thought,
Yeah.
wow, this is again unprecious. It's like, well, this works. Great. We're gonna throw it in. Yeah.
The thing is that it really hit nicely. I mean, not the camera. It was like bang.
That makes
And
you
then-
think it was on purpose. No. Okay.
And then suddenly you throw in the back of the car. You look up. And,
Yeah.
You know, it kind of indicates to the audience that what you're going to see for the next minute and a half, whatever it is something very different and special.
Yeah. I shot a movie in New York 7 years ago on the streets, whatever, and it was so wonderful to wrap and then walk home. It feels more like a creative exercise, I guess.
Well, the city has and they always use the cliche of the energy, but it does have the energy.
Right.
It simply does, because everybody's on top of each other.
Right.
I mean, look at it. All the buildings on top of each other. It's different from LA. LA is spread out. You get the car. Back in 1971, when I learned to drive, I had to learn to drive out there. It was wonderful. It's made for cars.
Yeah.
You know, and you just turn the music up.
Your edge rots out there, though.
Yeah, it tended to, but luckily I was able to do films like Taxi Driver, and then
Right.
mainly because they saw Mean Streets and they wanted De Niro and myself together on
Right.
that film.
But it was a different New York.
Oh, that was the New York of, Ford to City, Drop Dead. We shot it in the summer of '76. It was apparently the most
Violent? No.
well, violent, yes. But you see, for me, violence here is always the same. I grew up here. I'm always walking in the street a certain way, or I know not.
Yeah, he was checking your shoulder.
So the thing about it is now I just know I could see a person coming down that may not, because I grew up downtown in a rough
Lower
area,
East Side, right?
in the Lower East Side when the Bowery was the Bowery, and it was
Right.
pretty scary growing up as a kid.
Right.
But what had happened was that the city was going to go bankrupt, and they asked from my long story short,
Yeah.
they asked for federal
The
help.
Bronx was on fire, insurance schemes.
Yeah. It was buildings were collapsing. That
Right.
was that famous
Yeah.
building that collapsed that we put in vinyl. It was apparently the lowest ebb that the city has ever been in.
Was that?
Was that mid when we were
It was a
shooting Taxi
perfect,
Driver.
perfect cinematic background.
Yeah, but for me it was normal.
Right.
I was used to that.